If you heard that Congress just cut Social Security, here is the answer first. Nothing has passed that cuts your check. No vote, no law, and the bill people are pointing at is still sitting in committee. But do not stop there, because there is a real projection underneath the noise, and 3 numbers decide what it means for you. Under current law, if Congress makes no changes, about 78% of scheduled benefits would be payable from the Retirement and Survivors Fund when its reserves are depleted around late 2032, and that share declines after that. Keep your own monthly benefit in mind, because in about a minute, I am going to hand you a 10-second stress test for it. Then I will show you why another video can honestly quote you 2034 and 83%, and why those numbers describe something different. Here is the stress test, and it takes 10 seconds. Take the Social Security amount you receive now and multiply it by 0.78. Be clear about what that number is not. It is not a forecast of your future check. The trustees give a ratio for the whole Retirement and Survivors Fund. They do not say every individual payment would land on that same percentage. What it gives you is the scale. So ask yourself one question. If my budget had to work at roughly that scale, which bill would stop fitting? If the answer is none, that is worth knowing. If a bill stops fitting, that is the part of your plan worth a closer look, and you are looking at it while the current projection is still about 6 years out. Now the bill, because it is real and you can look it up. It is House Bill 9187, H.R., a bill, not a resolution, the Bipartisan Social Security Commission Act of 2026. It was introduced and referred to committee. It has not become law. And the bill itself changes no benefit, no cost of living adjustment, and no retirement age. What it would do, if enacted, is create a 13-member commission. At least 9 of those members would have to approve a package of recommendations and proposed legislation for keeping both trust funds solvent for at least 75 years, and they would have 1 year from their first meeting to send it to Congress. A later approval bill carrying that package could then get expedited consideration. Limited debate, no amendments, no motions to strike. Even then, a vote is not guaranteed. A chamber has to agree to take it up first. So the honest description is short. This is not a benefit cut. It is a proposed fast track to future solvency legislation, and right now, it is sitting in committee. So, the bill is not the source of the real risk. Current law is. The trustees project that the Old Age and Survivors Insurance Fund, the fund a retirement check and a widow's check both come from, can pay 100% of scheduled benefits until the 4th quarter of 2032. If Congress makes no changes before those reserves are depleted, continuing income is projected to cover about 78% of scheduled benefits at that point. That continuing income is mainly payroll taxes, plus the income tax collected on some Social Security benefits. So the program is not projected to have no money. It is projected to have less coming in than it has promised to pay out. Which is why nothing has passed should settle the headline and should not end the conversation. That sentence needs 2 guardrails. First, the projected shortfall does not need a new law to appear. Congress would have to change current law to prevent it or reduce it. Second, and this is the part that gets left off when 78% is quoted on its own, 78 is the starting point at depletion, not a floor. The same report projects the payable share continuing to decline to 62% by 2100. So do not turn a projection into a certainty. And do not freeze it at 78 either. This is a projection, not a promise. The trustees revise it every year, and this report moved the depletion point a quarter earlier than the last one. The accurate sentence keeps every one of its conditions. If Congress makes no changes before the reserves are depleted, continuing income is projected to cover about 78% of scheduled benefits around late 2032. Stating it as flat certainty goes past the report. Waving it away as nothing ignores it. If that distinction was useful, send this to whoever forwarded you the claim that Congress had already cut your check. They deserve the correction and the real risk in the same message. Let me put a person on this, because a percentage is not something anybody can picture. Let's use a hypothetical 68-year-old named Dorothy. In this example, her Social Security is $2,000 a month, and it covers her housing, her utilities, and her food, with a small pension covering the rest. If nothing changes between now and late 2032, what these projections describe is not the money stopping. The trustees project a funding ratio for the whole fund, not an exact cut applied to every individual check. So nobody can honestly tell you Dorothy would receive exactly 78% of her scheduled benefit. But as a scale test, 78% of $2,000 is about $1,560. That is a serious number, and I am not going to soften it. But look at what it actually is. A projected shortfall with about 6 years left on the current projection. The date is not a surprise. It is printed in a public report every year. The gap itself could still start sharply once the reserves are gone, and that is exactly why the date being public is worth something. If you have heard 2034 and 83% instead, you have not heard a contradiction. You have heard a different measurement. Social Security is not one trust fund, it is two. One for retirement and survivor benefits, and a separate one for disability. The Retirement and Survivors Fund on its own is the 2032 and 78% story. The later, healthier numbers come from measuring both funds together. 2034, about 83% payable at that point. And that one declines too, to 65% by 2100. Same trap, different number. But the report is explicit that those are separate legal entities that could not actually be combined without a change in the law. The combined figure is an analytical picture, not an account that exists. And disability on its own is projected to pay full benefits through at least 2100, which is exactly why blending it in makes the picture look stronger. So label the number before you let it near your plan, retirement fund alone, or hypothetical combined funds. That label tells you which story you are being told. Here is the sorting rule. If you get a retirement or a survivor check, look at the retirement fund on its own. Late 2032, about 78% payable at depletion, declining after that. If the headline is program-wide, it is probably the hypothetical combined figure, 2034, about 83% at depletion, declining to 65% by 2100. And disability on its own is projected to pay full benefits through at least 2100. Two words let you decode all of it: scheduled and payable. Scheduled is what the benefit formula in the law works out to. Payable is what the money coming in can actually cover. Up to now, nothing has forced them apart, which is why the distinction has not mattered to an individual retiree's monthly planning. What the trustees project is the point where they separate. So when someone tells you Social Security will not run out of money, the reserves genuinely are projected to run out. What keeps arriving is the tax money, and that is what they are describing. When someone tells you benefits get cut, they are describing the gap between scheduled and payable. Both sentences can come out of the same paragraph of the same report. Now you can tell which one you are hearing. So back to the number you worked out at the start. That result is a stress test, not a prediction. If it still covers the bills Social Security has to cover, that is one useful thing you did not know an hour ago. If it does not, you have found the part of the budget that deserves a closer look, and you found it with years to work on it, not in the month it starts to matter. The larger habit is 3 questions: what actually passed, which fund the number describes, and whether the number means scheduled or payable. I check one circulating money claim against the actual government document every week. If you want the next one checked the same way, subscribe. 3 things to do with this. Read the Trustees Report summary yourself at ssa.gov. It is short. When a video throws a bill number at you, look it up at congress.gov and find the line marked Latest Action. That one line tells you what has actually happened to it. And if that rough scenario turned up something that worries you, it is worth raising with whoever helps you with money, while there is room to adjust. And I want to ask you something you can answer right now. Where did you first hear that Congress was cutting Social Security? A video, a forwarded message, someone at church, the news? Put the source in the comments. I want to see how this claim is actually traveling, because that tells me which one to check next. 3 things. Read the Trustees Report summary at ssa.gov. Look up any bill number at congress.gov and find the line marked Latest Action. And if that scenario turned up something that worries you, it is worth raising while there is room to adjust. Congress has not cut your Social Security check, and the bill in this story is still in committee. The real issue is the trustees' projection, about 78% payable from the Retirement and Survivors Fund at depletion around late 2032 if Congress makes no changes, declining after that. 2034 and 83% describe the hypothetical combined funds, and that share declines too. This channel is educational. It is not personal financial advice, and it is not tax advice. Check the rule, not the slogan.